All right. So normally with the kids, we go out there and then we sing more songs, but I guess that's not what's going to happen tonight. All those songs are wonderful. If we're gonna recap to catch up to where we are today in the life of David, we got a lot of recapping to do to get everybody on the same page. So, the story of David is what we're dealing with the kids. So, I'll give you the people in the story, kind of an explanation of who they are and where they're going and what's happening. You have David, the son of Jesse, who is the next king of Israel to be. Samuel the prophet, this is in Israel way back when, I don't know the date, but way back when Israel had just become a nation. You had Moses, and then Moses passed away, then Joshua, and then you had the judges, right? And God was the king, and then the people said, I want a king. So God gave them the king, he said, this isn't going to be good for you. You should have me be your king. And they're like, no, we want a king like everybody else. He said, okay, fine. And he gave him Saul, right? So Saul's the first king of Israel, and Saul's doing a terrible job, right? Where God says, okay, that's it. I gave you a command to do what I asked you to do, and you disobeyed. You're not going to be king anymore. So Samuel tells King Saul this. You're no longer going to be king. There's going to be a new king. He doesn't, at that moment, stop being king. He's still king, right? And then God sends Samuel to Jesse's house and says, hey, one of your sons, God said, is going to be king, right? David gets anointed as the next king of Israel, right? So then you have the story, which everyone's probably familiar with, the story of David and Goliath, right? David, he's anointed king, but he's not immediately king. He's just a kid, right? And he's watching sheep like he's supposed to, and some crazy things happen. Bears and lions come after his sheep, right? And with God's help, he's able to kill the lion and the bear and protect the sheep. Amazing, right? He goes to bring his brothers some cheese, right? His brothers are older than him. They're fighting in the war. The Philistines are attacking. And you have King Saul and the children of Israel and their army versus the Philistines and their army. The Philistines of Gath, and they have Goliath as their champion, right? So, was like Agag is the king, I think. I can't remember. But anyway, so that happens, right? And David shows up, and he says, what has happened? This guy's blaspheming our God. Is nobody going to just go take care of this? And he's a little kid, right? And his brother's like, get out of here, you little kid. You just want to see bloodshed. Little ruddy little guy. And he's like, no, is there not a cause? He's blaspheming God. We need to stop this. I'll kill him. I killed a lion and a bear. What's this giant? Who cares? It's God. It's not me versus him. It's God versus him, right? And then Saul hears about it. He says, all right, bring him in here. There's that whole story, right? And he says, no, I won't use your armor. I'll just use my sling, what I'm used to, And he gets a sling and boom, kills Goliath, right? Well, then everybody knows about David, right? King Saul is super happy with David. This kid is he can rally the people. He's a sharp boy. I'm going to make him a captain in my army, right? And then he makes him a captain in his army. Everything's going great. And all of a sudden, he hears these people singing songs about David. About Saul killing his thousands and David his tens of thousands. And King Saul's like, nope, I don't like this anymore. I want to kill him, right? And King Saul has always been like not a stable person, right? He does whatever he wants when he wants to do it. Everything is about King Saul. And he, over and over and over again, even before that, he would always get angry, and he had an anger problem, right? And they brought David in to play the harp and calm him down. Like, he was not a stable person, right? King Saul wasn't. But now King Saul's went from, hey, I like this kid. I'm going to give my daughter to him to be married. And to, no, I want to kill this guy, right? So in a rage, while David's playing the harp, he throws a javelin to stick him to the wall, to kill him. Misses. David dodges it and gets out of there. I'm like, what in the world was that, right? And then, he's like, oh, okay, I can't do that again. King Saul, he's like, oh, no, David's not bad. He's fine. And everyone's like, okay, we're good, right? Okay, we're good. And then he's like, gets angry, and he's mad at David again. He wants to kill him, and he's like, oh, throw a javelin at him again, and misses again, right? And this goes on, and then he's like, I don't want David to marry my daughter, So he devises a plan, right? And David's like, I can't marry the king's daughter because she's a king's daughter. Like, I have to pay the father. That's the way things worked in that culture, right? You give a large sum of money. And he was a shepherd. David was not a rich kid, right? He did not come from wealth. There's no possible way he could do that. So he's like, I can't. Quit talking to me about marrying the king's daughter. I can't do that. And so King Saul's like, I'm going to let the Philistines kill him. David, I tell you what, if you bring me 100 Philistines, kill 100 Philistines, you can marry my daughter. And David's like, really? I can do that, right? So he gets a bunch of people together, and he goes and he kills 200 Philistines. And he's like, all right. And Saul was like, man, they'll kill him. But he did what he said he was going to do. And he came back, and he was able to marry the king's daughter. Right? So now he's married to the king's daughter. This is in chapter 16 or 17. We're in chapter 24, 1 Samuel, if you want to turn there. Chapter 24, 1 Samuel chapter 24. So he marries the king's daughter, right? Then King Saul tries to kill him again, right? He's mad. He's after his life. I'm on the blessings. This isn't my notes. There's my notes. All right. So he marries the king's daughter. Then David and Saul's mad, throwing javelins at him, right? He's trying to kill him. And so then Jonathan tries to talk to the king. He's like, no, I'll talk to the king. This is the king's son, Jonathan, who is supposed to be the next heir to the throne, right? God's already told King Saul, nope, your lineage is not going to be heirs to the throne. I'm giving it to someone else, right? But by everyone else's standards, Jonathan is the prince, right? So Jonathan and David become really good friends. And Jonathan tries to talk to the king, and he says, hey, King Saul, don't, what's wrong with David? He's a good guy. He's done everything right by you. He's been a captain of your army. He's always respected you. He's always been the best thing you have, the best man you have. Why would you want to kill him? That makes no sense. And he tries to calm him down. And King Saul's not having it, right? He says, I'm gonna kill him, right? I'm gonna kill David. So he sends people to go to David's house, where David's with his wife, go to his house and kill him, right? And so David knows about this. So he's with his wife, and he's like, I gotta survive. I gotta get out of here. So his wife, her name is Michelle or Mikhail, right? She makes a bed, makes it like he's in there, like he's sleeping, and then somebody comes to the door to get in the house. And she's like, oh, you can't come in. He's sick in bed. You have to go. Shuts the door on him. And so he goes back to the king and says, go kill David. Go in the house and kill him. So the guy comes back, no, you can't come in. And the guy busts in, and it's not David. He's not there. And King Saul's, why did you lie to me? You're my daughter. Why would you lie to me? And she's like, because David was going to hurt me if I didn't do what he said. And she lied to the king. So now the king has justification, right? Why he's after David. Is that really what happened? No. But that's what he thought. That's what she told the king because she was afraid for her own life because the guy's a crazy person, right? So now David's running again. He's running from King Saul. He goes and finds Jonathan, and Jonathan and him come up with this idea. They're like, okay. And at this point, still, like everybody else, the vast majority of people don't really know what's going on. It's just King Saul, and he's always crazy, right? But they don't think that King Saul's trying to kill David. Only like the people close to King Saul know that he's trying to kill David, right? So it's still like socially trying to act good around everyone else, right? But in closed doors, I want to kill David, is King Saul's attitude, right? So Jonathan goes to David, and he says, hey, I will go talk to my dad. And I'll tell you what, this is what we're going to do. You stand over by this rock, and I will shoot 3 arrows, because he's an archer, and he's good with a bow and arrow. He's like, I'll shoot 3 arrows. If I shoot them short of the rock, it means you're good to go. You can come, and we'll go get dinner with everybody else. If I shoot it and it's past the rock, then you need to get out of here, because he really is going to kill you. So Jonathan goes to talk to his dad. And they sit down for dinner, and King Saul's like, where is David? He's supposed to be here. Where is he? And Jonathan's like, Dad, why do you want to kill David? He's a good guy. And he's so mad, King Saul grabs a javelin and throws it at his own son and misses. right? Tries to kill his own son. So Jonathan's like, okay, you got to go, right? So he shoots the arrows farther, right? And David takes off. Okay, so now he's running. Now he's full-blown running. It's no longer a secret that David is after. Well, I guess it's now spreading that King Saul is after David's life. So David runs to this town called Nob. In this town called Nob, there's a guy, his name is Ahimelech. He's a priest, right? And he goes to the high priest, Ahimelech, and the priest is there doing his job, right? And he shows up. He has no food. He hasn't eaten. He has no provisions. And he's like, do you have any food? And Ahimelech's like, hey, David, what's going on? And David's like, well, King Saul sent me, and I had to come right away, and I don't have any food. Do you have any food? He's like, well, all I have is a showbread. And he's like, that'll work. So he gets the showbread, right? The food for the priests, and he eats it. And then he notices Doeg is here, one of the guys in Saul's army. He's going to notice me, and he's going to go tell King Saul where I am. I need to get out of here, and I need a sword. So he's like, Ahimelech, do you have a sword? I left so fast I didn't grab a sword. And Ahimelech's like, well, the only sword I have is the sword of Goliath that you killed. I mean, you can have that if you want, but the thing's huge, right? He's like, that'll work, give it to me. And he gets the sword, and he takes off, right? And he knows King Saul's after him. So then he runs. From there, he goes to Gath. Gath is where the Philistines are, right? Like, he can't go anywhere in Israel because he knows that the king is after him. He's running for his life. King Saul's after him, right? He's running for his life, so he goes to Gath, where the Philistines are. And I wrote it down. Achish, not Agad. I said it wrong. Achish. King Achish of Gath, here's David's there. David killed Goliath. That's like their champion. And so David all of a sudden is like, oh no, they're going to kill me here in Gath. How am I going to get out of this one? So he starts acting like a crazy person, starts letting the drool fall from his face, starts babbling nonsense and scratching at the gate to the city and like acting like an absolutely crazy person. And the king's like, I don't want to deal with that. Get that out of my sight. He's obviously mad. I don't want to have anything to do with that, you know? I don't want to catch any mad cow disease. So he gets out of there, and he runs and gets away to a new place, right? And he goes and hides in the cave of Adullam. And then all of a sudden, he's in this cave, and people hear where he is. And all the people that don't like King Saul and that are like fugitives running from the law, they all come find David. And they're like, hey, you're running from the law. I'll join you, right? So then he gets a group of 600 men are following David around while he's running from King Saul, right? And this whole time, like, if you're reading this through this story, it's not saying what happened was right or what happened was wrong. It's just saying what happened, right? It's just the history of the life of King David. And about this time, you're like, what is going on? You know, like, should he really have lied to the priest about the showbread and to get the sword? Or like, should he really have acted like a crazy person? Should he be running from Saul? Or should he just be like, no, God said I was going to be king, so I know it'll take care of me? It's easy for us in hindsight, right? Look back at history and say, oh, he should have done something differently than what he did. But what if you were there, right? You just run for your life. You have the king who's after you to kill you. What would you do, right? So he's in this cave. He's got all these people that are now with him. And then King Saul and Doeg, King Saul's upset, right? He's like, what is wrong with all of you people? He's talking to the people that are with him. He's like, are all of you like my son Jonathan, who's going to go behind my back and save my enemies, right? I want to know where David is, and nobody's telling me. And then Doeg says, hey, wait, I saw David in Nob with Ahimelech. Yeah, I saw him over there. So Saul takes his army, and he goes to Ahimelech, the priest in Nob. And he says, come here and bring your whole family out here. 85 priests. He brings 85 priests and women and children. And he says, and King Saul says to Ahimelech, he says to Ahimelech, you go behind my back and help my enemies. You and all your house are going to die. And Ahimelech's like, what? What are you talking about? How am I supposed to know? This isn't my fault. He's a captain in your army, as far as I know. I didn't help your enemy. You can't blame me. I didn't do anything wrong. And King Saul doesn't care. Doesn't matter. Guys, kill them all. And all of the children of Israel in the army are like, I'm not killing the priests. I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing that. And nobody would do it. And he sits there, and then he looks at Doeg and says, Doeg, kill them all. And Doeg does. Kills 85 priests and women and children. The whole town of Nob. Just wipes it out. Whoa. And David, not King David, he's not king yet, but David hears about that. One of the sons of Ahimelech got away and came to David and told him what happened. And David said, their blood is on my hands, was David's response. But did David kill any of those people? No, he didn't kill any of those people. But he did lie. He did deceive the Ahimelech. It's why all those people ended up dying. It wasn't David's fault. It's Saul's fault and Doeg's fault that they're all dead, right? But David took that responsibility on himself, right? And he said, those people's blood are on my hands, right? And that's the way he handled that, right? And then on again, he keeps running, and then Saul figures out where he is and starts chasing him, and he's running again. And he goes to this forest where, oh man, it's chapter 23. So he goes, that's right. So he goes to the Philistines, right? The Philistines raid this town called Keilah. And he's like, I'm hiding in the cave of Adullam. Keilah's right over here. I can go save them. I have 600 men. We can go save the people. The Philistines are killing them. So he asks God, God, should we go save these people? And God says, yes, go save them. And he says, okay, guys, let's go. And everyone else is like, what, are you crazy? Saul's going to figure out where we are if we go do that. And then he asks him again, God, the people say Saul's going to figure out where we are. Should we really go save the people? And God says, yes, go save them. So he says, doesn't matter, guys, we're going. And so they all go and they save the town. They ward off all the Philistines, and they're in Keilah. And Saul finds out, David's in Keilah. This is perfect. It's a walled city. I'll get there, and I'll just be at the gate, and he won't be able to get out, and I'll burn the whole town down. Boom. Problem solved. David will be dead. And so David has the priest's son with him, and when he says, okay, I need to hear from God. Let's talk. We need God's opinion here. Will the people of Keilah give me up to King Saul, or will they hide me? And so he asks God, and God's answer is, the people are going to give you up. You need to get out of there. Okay. So he leaves Keilah before King Saul gets there, and he goes into the woods of, where is it? The woods of En-Gedi. Yeah. No. En-Gedi is where he goes next. Anyway, he goes into these woods, and the people there say, hey, we'll help the king. We'll rat him out. We'll find him. So he gets out of there, and he goes, and he's in this mountain. He's going through these mountains, and King Saul's closing in on him. He's on one side of the mountain, King Saul's on the other side, and he's got his army split into two, and he's coming in, and he's going to catch him. So King David's got no way out. And then all of a sudden, somebody tells King Saul, the Philistines are raiding us again. We need to go defend our country. We have to leave. And King Saul says, oh, all right, fine. So he leaves. The whole army leaves. David gets away again, right? And King Saul goes and deals with the Philistines again. And then David ends up in En-Gedi, which is like an oasis, right? So this is where the story is. This is where we've come to. And I don't know about you, but if you're thinking the way I'm thinking, you're like, my goodness, does this ever end, right? Like, what? Like, this is a lot of stuff happening in King David, and it's like, what's the right answer? What do you do? But this is the story, right? This is where it is. And I'll read you a little bit of what En-Gedi is like, right? So it's this wilderness area, like barren wasteland next to the Dead Sea, right? And En-Gedi is actually an oasis, right? So all the land around it is just jagged, white rocks and sharp peaks. And this guy, what's his name? Oh, I should have highlighted this. Yep. I'm never going to find it. This book. I don't know why I didn't highlight that. But anyway, there's a guy. I can't remember his name. But he's talking about he's traveling through this part of the countryside on horseback. And it took him 4.5 hours to go 6 miles. Like, this is like mountains and valleys and nothing easy, and it's just like jagged caves everywhere, really difficult area. And then En-Gedi is this oasis that's down in the middle of all this mountainous area, right? And it's lush and green, and King Solomon talks about in the Song of Solomon, he compares his wife to En-Gedi, the oasis, right? But everywhere around the oasis is all this rocks and stuff, right? So chapter 24, verse number 1, and it came to pass, when Saul was returned from following the Philistines, that it was told him, saying, Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-Gedi. Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men upon the rocks of the wild goats, right? So the rocks of the wild goats, like mountain goats, right? That's where he is, in this mountainous, caves everywhere area. And he came to the sheepcotes by the way, where was a cave. And Saul went in to cover his feet, and David and his men remained in the sides of the cave. So David and his men are inside this cave. And Saul comes into this cave. Now, I tried to look up, what does that mean, he went in to cover his feet? There's a couple different explanations, right? Some say it was sleeping, like whoever wrote this was commentary by Hendrickson. Hendrickson said he's sleeping, right? I've also heard other people preach and say that he was going to the bathroom, which seems to make more sense because, if he was sleeping, he would have came in with a torch and he would have seen people. But he didn't have any, it was pitch black, he didn't have anything, and all the people are hiding up on the side of the cave, right? It's a big cave, right? Because there's 600 of David's men, or maybe not all of his men were in the cave. Maybe they're spread out because there's caves everywhere in that area, right? But David and his men are hiding in the cave, and King Saul comes into this cave, and David's men say, hey, well, let's just read it. Let's read it. And the men of David said unto him, Behold, the day of which the Lord said unto thee, Behold, I will deliver thine enemy into thine hand, that thou mayest do to him as it shall seem good unto thee. Then David arose and cut off the skirt of Saul's robe privately. And it came to pass afterward that David's heart smote him, because he had cut off Saul's skirt. And he said unto his men, The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch forth mine hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord. So David's men are saying, hey, King Saul's going to the bathroom or whatever he was doing. He covered his feet, however that happened, right? And this is your chance to kill him. And they want David to kill the king, right? David's been running for who knows how long at this point, right? It didn't give, in 1 Samuel, it doesn't give dates, right? It doesn't, but obviously he's been running and running and running and running and running, right? And Saul's tried to kill him and tried to kill him and tried to kill him and tried to kill him. David knows he's supposed to be the next king, and this is his opportunity to kill the King Saul, right? It's not the first, it's not like he's never killed before. He killed Goliath and then chopped off his head, right? What's the problem, right? What's the problem? And David says he cuts off his skirt and he feels guilty about that. He cuts off the edge of his robe. And he's like, man, I can't do this to the king. He's the Lord's anointed. Whoa, right? Like, talk about a weird answer, right? So David stayed his servants with these words, and suffered them not to rise against Saul. But Saul rose up out of the cave and went on his way. David also arose after and went out of the cave and cried after Saul. So, Saul's done with whatever he's doing. He gets up and he leaves. He doesn't even know David was in there. And when he's far enough away, David comes out of the cave also and cries after King Saul. King Saul, my king. Well, let's read what he says. My lord the king, And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed himself. And David said to Saul, Wherefore hearest thou men's words, saying, Behold, David seeketh thy hurt? Behold, this day thine eyes have seen how that the Lord hath delivered thee today into mine hand in the cave. And some bade me kill thee, but mine eyes spared thee, and I said, I will not put forth mine hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, he's his father-in-law, right? See the skirt of thy robe in my hand, for in that I cut off the skirt of thy robe and killed thee not. Know thou and see that there is neither evil nor transgression in mine hand, and I have not sinned against thee. Yet thou huntest my soul to take it. Right? So he doesn't even know the back of his skirt's missing, right? He turns around and he's like, see, I have a piece of your clothes in my hand that I cut off, you know. I could have killed you, but I didn't. I'm not trying to hurt you in any way. You are my king. Says this to King Saul, right? And let's verse number 12. The Lord judge between me and thee, and the Lord avenge me of thee, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. As saith the proverb of the ancients, wickedness proceedeth from the wicked, but mine hand shall not be upon thee. After whom is the king of Israel come out? After whom dost thou pursue? After a dead dog, after a flea. The Lord therefore be judge, and judge between us and thee, and see, and plead my cause, and deliver me out of thine hand. And it came to pass, when David had made an end of speaking these words unto Saul, that Saul said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. And he said to David, Thou art more righteous than I, for thou hast rewarded me good, whereas I have rewarded thee evil. And thou hast shown this day how that thou hast dealt well with me. Forasmuch as when the Lord hath delivered me into thine hand, thou killest me not. For if a man find his enemy, will he let him go well away? Wherefore the Lord reward thee good, for that thou hast done unto me this day. And now behold, I know well that thou shalt surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in thine hand. Swear now therefore unto me by the Lord, that thou wilt not cut off my seed after me, and that thou wilt not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David sware unto Saul. And Saul went home, but David and his men got up unto the hold. So he says, so King Saul decides, okay, I'm done trying to kill you. I'll stop. I get it. You're way better to me than I have ever been to you. And I understand that you're going to be king. Just please don't kill my kids, right? And he leaves. And David's able to rest, at least momentarily, right? After running and running and running and trying to figure out what is right, what is wrong. You know, like, how does this situation, why is God allowing this in David's life, right? I mean, all of that is just so crazy. And it seems like it never ends. It's just nuts after, like, what is going on? You know, he's always trying to do the right thing and maybe not always doing the right thing. Maybe he shouldn't have lied. Maybe he shouldn't have acted like a crazy person, you know? Either way, though, that is what happened. And through it, David learned, right? Because at the beginning of that story, when he's running, he's just running. He's doing whatever he can to survive. He's trying to do right. I mean, he had already killed Goliath in God's strength. He understands who God is, and he wants to serve God with his life. But faced with that situation, he might not have done the right thing. Who knows? You know, it doesn't say whether what he did was right or wrong. But you do look at that story and you think, wow, that's a lot for anybody to go through, right? Why would God allow all that? You know, I kind of think that God kind of was in control the whole time, right? Like, what we know of God is he's always in control, right? And that might have been real tough for David to go through. But God had a plan, and God knew from start to finish. And to go from acting like a crazy person and lying to get food and a sword to having the opportunity to end all of his problems and to choose, no matter how good it is, I'm going to do the right thing. Because when I didn't do the right thing, 85 priests died and their families. I'm going to decide to do the right thing. And that didn't happen overnight. We all look at David like he was always perfect all the time, right? Even with his faults. We look at David like, you're the best. But some of that he probably just had to go through. He had to go through hard times and rough times to get there, right? And if you're dealing with tough times tonight, right? If you're dealing with, man, like why? Why does this seem like it never ends? Like why can't I get a break, right? It's not like God's not in control. Maybe he has a lesson for us to learn. Let's just take a step back and learn the lessons that are in front of us, right? Nobody likes to run for their entire lives, right? But he's going to run until he learns his lesson, right? So let's take that step back, right? That's the story of David, right? How are we doing? What can we learn? How can we just learn our lessons and take good times and bad, It doesn't matter what it is. How can we take what we have in front of us and decide to do the right thing, right? Like that song we sang, do right. Do right till the last call. Do right till the stars fall, right? When no one else will stand by you and you're all alone, just do right, right? All right, let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for the story of David. Lord, I pray that we would take to heart these lessons and these stories we have of people who have decided to serve you with their lives and their struggles and what they went through and a biography of their lives, Lord. There's so much to learn, Lord. I pray that we would be like David, to where we would be able to say, and people would be able to say of this, that person's a friend of God, Lord. That's such an honor for David to be able to be called that, Lord. I pray that I would have that kind of relationship with you as well, Lord. I pray that my life would be like that. I understand not everything he did was good, and not everything he did was right. But Lord, he did have a relationship with you and a love for you, Lord. And I want that so bad, and I pray that you'd help me to learn the lessons I have to learn and to take the life of David and to apply that to myself and how I can grow by it. In your name I pray. Amen. All right. Thanks for coming. You are dismissed.